Zack from Goatwhore, and you're watching Richard Metal Fan.
Hey, what's up, guys? Episode 219 of Richard Metal Fan Interviews, calling from Zoom, and I'm here with Zack Simmons from the Almighty Goatwhore. How you doing today, Zack?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having me, man.
Anytime, man. Anytime. It's a good late night here in Georgia. How is it over in Arizona?
It's good, man. I'm in Sedona right now, and it's snowing up here, but which is it happens in kind of northern Arizona, but where I live in Phoenix, that snow does not happen. So it's cool to see snow and be kind of close to home, but still experience some of that action.
Yeah, because when I hear Arizona, I heard it's very rarely snows. I feel like Georgia and Arizona have a thing in common, like it very rarely snows.
Yeah, dude, actually, I remember Atlanta. This was years back. I was in town for that Scion Fest. Remember that?
I've heard of it.
Okay, yeah, they did it at the Masquerade. They had like the big outdoor stage and then all the indoor Masquerade stages. But like the day I was supposed to fly out, like it was a crazy snowstorm, like blizzard in
Oh
Atlanta.
shit.
So a lot of people's flights got canceled. But yeah, just kind of a random thing I just remembered.
Yeah, that's crazy. See, because I think the last snow day I think we had was 2017, 2018.
Oh wow.
And I definitely remembered but I don't think it was nearly as bad as what you described.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, a lot of people. I mean, Atlanta people were kind of, you could tell people weren't used to that happening.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm trying to eventually go to Arizona because one of my bucket list things is to see like the Grand Canyon because you can't go to Arizona and not go to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, it's cool. Hell yeah, yeah. Arizona's got a lot of cool stuff, man. I mean, it can be 120 degrees in Phoenix, and then you can go up north, and it's a totally different environment.
Yeah, because like one of my bucket list goals is to hit like all 50 states. So far, I've been to 15, and I'm trying to. And a lot of people could sit, and some of them were like layovers at airports, and there's always the debate of like whether it counts or not.
Yeah, yeah. I'm kind of like that too. I mean, I've technically been a lot of places that I haven't actually been in that same way.
Yeah. And how far is like Phoenix from Tucson? Because I know my friend Zoe from Cradle of Filth and Catalyst Crime lives over there.
Okay, yeah. It's Tucson's like 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Nice. It would be cool if like Cradle and Filth and Goatwhore did a tour together. I think it would crush.
Yeah, that would be cool for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to see Arizona, and I've heard of this place called Yogurtini. If you ever tried that.
No.
Yeah, I think it's in Phoenix. I heard it's like a yogurt kind of place. I'm only familiar with it because I've heard of a YouTuber I watch called Froyo Gamers. They're actually from Phoenix.
Okay.
Yeah, they're basically known for like gaming and stuff, and they're pretty much known for like they do like live action SpongeBob remakes of episodes, but they add like their own kind of like original stuff, like ad lib and stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's all sorts of new shit popping up all the time, man. It's too much for me to keep track of, but yeah, a lot of good restaurants, a lot of cool stuff happening.
Yeah, definitely. So, kind of like the format is, I want to talk about like your musical origins and sort of do a rundown of your discography. So, take me back to young Zack Simmons. So, kind of growing up in Arizona, what were the first bands that got you into metal and what made you want to start playing the drums?
Oh well, I guess early on, I mean, it kind of started out with like must have been early '90s, Guns N' Roses and Metallica, because those are kind of the biggest bands on the fucking planet, at that time, and that's was kind of my entry point into rock and roll, rock music, and then from then on, I kind of um, got into metal more traditionally, just in the timeline of it, because it started out with me like from then just kind of digging back into Black Sabbath, Ozzy, and then progressing into Maiden, Priest, and then darker and deeper and heavier from there. But what's interesting though is because like I'm a younger, a generation younger than most of my bandmates, but it was the same trajectory of getting into metal for me as a younger person as it was the same for them when they grew up, which is kind of interesting. I kind of followed the same. same path, but years apart.
Yeah. And what were your bands like pre-Goatwhore?
Man, I only had time to do because I joined Goatwhore so early. I had like a local band in Phoenix. It's called Dejection, and I used to, book all our shows and, just was, we had a couple demos and just jump on local shows and stuff. But yeah, we opened up. It was Immolation, Goatwhore, Grave Tour. We were like the local opener on
Yeah.
that,
And
and
little
then
would you know.
yeah, and then 3 months later, I was in the band, which is crazy, so between that local band, I was in like a 80s like kind of metal cover band with some older dudes. We used to play bars and Motley Crue, Bon Scott, AC/DC, some more kind of danceable rock covers and stuff. But yeah, it was stuff like that. And I was so young, and I'd have to wait outside of the bar until it was time to play, because you can't have a 16-year-old hanging out in your bar, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was mainly that my local metal band, and then that cover band was, all I really had time to do until joining Goatwhore and doing that.
Yeah. And how'd you end up joining? Because I know you joined in 2004, so 20 years ago this year.
Yeah, it's wild. So I follow the band a lot, and basically just kind of periodically checking their website, like for updates. And I saw something like their latest update was Zach Nolan, their previous drummer, was leaving the band. So they had, contacts. Ben's email was on the post, and it listed 6 songs to learn if you're interested in auditioning. So I sent him an email. I learned the songs, and it's funny because I already had a set list of theirs that Ben gave me from a show I had seen them previous. So I learned the 6 songs, but I learned the rest of the songs in the set list too. Which I probably, I don't know, it couldn't have hurt my chances, because we ran through the 6 songs of the audition, and then I think Sammy was like, you know anything else? Do you want to play anything else? I'm like, yeah, let's do this one. Let's do this one. Let's do Nocturnal Holocaust. And so that whole thing just, I don't know, I kind of over prepared for the audition, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Can never be over prepared. You
Sure.
gotta like know your shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
didn't want to waste anybody's time or waste my own time, but
Yeah. And one thing I noticed because I was watching y'all on the Garza podcast, like you joined the band at 17. So were you pretty much like like still in high school when you auditioned, or did you had to wait till like after you graduate to go on tour?
yeah. So I think I auditioned like on my spring break for my senior year. I went to New Orleans and did that. And then when they told me you've got the gig, when can you move down here? I was like, well, I kind of need to graduate high school first. So I got that out of the way. And then a week after I graduated, I moved down to New Orleans. And I think my first show with them was April of 2004, April or May 2004. It was a benefit for Scott Williams, who is the former bass player of Soul and Green. He had just passed away kind of tragically, and there was a benefit show. So my first show with Goatwhore was that show. Soul and Green played as well, so Ben had to do double duty. And then we went. My first tour with Goatwhore was with Black Dahlia Murder. I was on the tour for their first record, Unhallowed. It was Black Dahlia Murder, Goatwhore, Cattle Decapitation, and Watch Them Die. So that was my
What a bill.
yeah. It was great, man, and it's just crazy how much time has gone by, and it just happened so quick.
You're right. And were you kind of like nervous, kind of like being the new guy in the band at the time?
I guess so, but I guess when you're that young, you're just stoked.
Yeah. And did
Well,
you, you were saying?
I don't know if I knew like what to be nervous about. I was just excited,
Yeah.
And
And did you like try to like bring something new rhythmically to Goatwhore that they didn't have previously?
maybe, but I, I guess I was kind of smart enough and mature enough to know that it's like I want to be true to the song, and like the original parts because I hadn't recorded my, a Goatwhore record, with of my own yet. You know what I mean? So I really wanted to stay true to the initial drums on those records. I wanted to stay true to that and respect it.
So yeah, then going into your first record with the band, A Haunting Curse, I like this album. So what was the thought process making this being as it was your first record with the band?
I think, and I don't know, it was kind of it was our first record with Metal Blade, and I was new in the band too, and coming off so I did or a lot of the touring for the previous record after I joined, and it was kind of just like a reinvigoration, just the attitude. We just really wanted to step it up a notch in terms of speed and intensity, and try to do the most, push ourselves to do the most extreme, just hard hitting thing we could at the time. And that record was kind of weird because we had started writing, we had half the record written in New Orleans, and then Hurricane Katrina came in and fucked a lot of shit up, obviously. But
Yeah.
then we kind of all relocated to Phoenix and wrote the second half of the record. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it was kind of, the circumstances weren't very ideal, but we made it work. And yeah, I think, yeah, that record is just every song. Well, most of the songs on the record are pretty balls out blazing fast, and yeah, it was just like everybody was on the same page, and yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah, 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 especially like title track, Bloodletting Upon the Cloven Hoof, Alchemy of the Black Sun Cult. Like all these songs are banger, and I feel like your drumming on here is just astounding. It's just fast and heavy, and it pretty much suits like Goatwhore's music to the T.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I think I don't know, being like the new guy too, and it was my first actual record, I get to be a part of. I don't know, it was kind of something that you wanted to live up to, and you wanted to put your stamp on something, and it's just I wanted to push myself to be the best I could be, and yeah, it was. I think that record is killer, man, and it was a cool time too. That's when like Headbangers Ball was still a thing, and we had videos going out on there and being played a lot. So yeah, it was just a good time for us. And our first record working with Eric Rutan, which we would continue to work with down the line. So yeah, it was just kind of set the pace of things to come.
Yeah, and do you remember like the first tours you did for A Haunting Curse?
Yeah, I remember when the day it came out, we were on tour with Venom, the Kronos version of Venom. And
Wow.
from then I think we did like two shows with Emperor in LA, and then straight into a tour with Celtic Frost, and then straight into fuck what a 1349. So yeah, it was a very black metal 6 months of touring. Like for me personally, I got to check off like a lot of touring with all my favorite black metal bands growing up within like 6 month period, which is pretty wild.
Nice. And I know also you do some session work because I know in 2009 you did Doomsday Derelict CP from Nactimism. I probably butchered the name. So how'd you end up playing drums on that?
Oh, Noctmistium, yeah,
Noctimistium. I keep fucking up the name for some reason.
yeah, that 1349 tour I just mentioned, the 1349 Goatwhore and Noctmistium, and so yeah, we were already, just did 30 shows with him. So I had heard those songs every night. And then they were in need of some help on tour, and Goatwhore wasn't busy at the time, so I went out and played that tour with them. I think it was Watane's first time over to the U.S., Angel Corpse, and Knock Mystium. So I filled in on that tour, and I just kind of kept helping them out when Goatwhore wasn't busy, and we ended up recording those songs for that EP real quick. And yeah, I'm still friends with all those dudes, and yeah, it's fun for me to I just like playing drums, man. So yeah.
Nice. And then going into the next Goatwhore album, Carving Out the Eyes of God. I like this album. What was it like going from A Haunting Curse to this? Did you feel like more comfortable now that you had some more time being in the band?
Yeah, totally. And I think that record, we were just because Haunting Curse was kind of like very frantic in terms of like the song structures and the arrangements and the speed. We kind of wanted to dial it back, not dial it back, but simplify, like, all right, it's okay if a riff repeats or you come back to this part, like a more traditional song structure with, not like a verse, kind of like just verse, chorus, bridge kind of thing. But like, yeah, if you have a killer riff, don't just glaze over. You can come back to it and repeat it or extend it. So I think or carving was a little more, I don't know, maybe coming into it with more of like a mature perspective or something like that, if that makes sense. But
And this
yeah,
year does mark 15 years of Carving Out the Eyes of God. So how do you feel about this album now, 15 years later?
it's been a while since I listened to it, but I don't remember anything like that I really want to cringe at or want to change about it. I think the dude, honestly, I think the production on that is probably one of my favorite Sammy guitar tones for a Goatwhore record.
Yeah,
Just whatever combo of gear he was using and the way Rutan captured his guitar sound, I think he like just nailed it on that one.
yeah.
And happy with the drum sound. I'm happy with all the songs, and yeah, I think it's a solid record, man. I think a lot. I don't know, from what I hear from other Goatwhore fans, they tend to like that one too. So
Yeah, and I especially love like the opening track, Apocalyptic Havoc. Definitely pretty much like a staple of Goatwhore's sort of like live set list. I know it was featured in the Saints Row's video game. So what was that like having like one of your songs in a video game?
I don't know. What's cool. I mean, it's always cool when people want to include your music or whatever. But I'm not a big video game person, so I don't know. I don't know. It's cool, whatever. That's fine. But yeah, cool record.
Hell yeah. Yeah, yeah. Then moving on to Blood for the Master. I love this album. Probably in my opinion, my favorite Goatwhore album. So tell me about making this album.
That record was our first one with James Harvey on bass.
Yeah. And how'd he join?
Oh man, well, he was already playing bass in one of Sammy's other projects called Ritual Killer. And he was living in New Orleans going to school, and he was uh he was 16 years old when I met him. So kind of like the same situation with me, but he was already fucking 8 feet tall and had a full beard. And I'm like, there's no way you're fucking 16, dude. You look like he was
Holy
30.
shit.
But then, so we lost our previous bass player. So it was just kind of like a no brainer to get him in Goatwhore because he was an awesome bass player. I mean, yeah, he had everything. He was a cool dude, great player. I mean, he looks like a fucking monster. So, and then he was in the band for the next 3 records. So,
Yeah.
and may he rest in peace. He passed away last year, so that's
Yeah.
very unexpected and unfortunate. But yeah, that's my memories of Blood for the Master, him joining, and again working with Rutan, which was always a smooth experience for us. And yeah, dude, and it's funny about that album. I think anytime like we're putting together a set list or whatever, like I think that record we play more off of that live than pretty much consistently every other record, just like the amount of songs that consistently get pulled out. So I think that says something about just the songs and how they go over live and how they represent Goatwhore. I think that album would be a good starting point for anybody trying to get into what we do, you know.
Yeah. Which songs do you still play live from that?
We do Collapse and Eternal Worth.
Yeah.
And Deathless Tradition comes out quite a bit. What else? Fuck.
I have the
Uh,
track list right here.
we were doing Embodiment. We still do Judgment from pretty frequently. Parasitic Scriptures of the Sacred Word we just did on this past tour. When Steel and Bow Meet was, we hadn't played that one in a while, but it's we did a video for that song, and yeah, it's just I think that record is pretty cohesive in terms of, you know, every one of those songs we played live at one point. So
Nice. Nice. I know also in 2012 you started up, I guess, Doomsday. You did that self-titled EP that same year. So tell me about like hooking up with those guys.
so basically that whole project was a bunch of guys that had played in Noctmistium before, but without a certain individual. And it, you know, we called it Doomsday because of like the Doomsday Derelict CP, and but we were jokingly calling it not Mistium for a while instead of Noctmistium. But it was just, you know, an excuse for, you know, dudes that are all still friends to stay busy and work on music together. You know, that's what we did. And yeah, it's just a low stress, fun thing to do and go record something and go play some shows. There wasn't really any expectation behind it, just other than having fun with your friends.
Yeah. And one thing I love is like you did a cover of Gigi Allen's I Kill Everything I Fuck. So what made you guys decide to cover that song in particular?
Um, Easy to learn, quick little fun rock and roll, scummy punk rock tune, you know, and yeah, I was about wasn't much more thought behind it than that.
Yeah. Yeah. And is there any plans to do any more with that, or is it just your main focus is with Goatwhore?
Right now, currently, just go to a couple other things, you know, like possibilities in the future. But yeah, as far as Doomsday, I don't know. I wouldn't be against it, but yeah, I think everybody's busy with something, you know, with their own shit. So who knows?
Right. Next up is Constricting Rage of the Merciless. This was funny enough my introduction to Goatwhore. So with this, so tell me about like making this. This is pretty much how I discovered Goatwhore, and then ever since then been a fan of you guys.
Cool. Yeah, that's another one we did with Rutan in Florida, and we did that record to recorded it to tape. So if you don't, people aren't really familiar with, that's how all your favorite records from, you know, you know, probably 97 were most likely recorded to. And it's for metal, it's a little more challenging, but the rewards are, I don't know, which is tough to say. I mean, for if you're a musician or into recording, it's something you would care about a little more. Maybe not the average listener wouldn't really give a shit if something is recorded to tape, but there's definitely some audio benefits to that. And also, if you're a musician, something like a certain grit and realness of recording that way. But aside from that, uh, I think the production on that is, I mean, I don't think we ever took a step down in terms of like production value or like tones that we were stoked about. But I'm really happy with the drums and guitar sounds, and the songs are good. I think there's a couple different little elements on that record too that for us just kind of branching out a little bit. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the song titles, but there's some different elements that I felt a little more comfortable including on that one than albums previous. So
Yeah, like you mentioned, like it's a very different. Like every song's diverse. Like "Fucked by Satan" is different from "Nocturnal Conjuration of the Accursed" is different from "Bearing Teeth for Revolt." I feel like every song kind of like is kind of like I guess an experimental kind of like side of Goatwhore in a way.
yeah, and it's one of those things I think that we're subconsciously conscious of, if that makes any sense, of each song having its own identity and within terms like of a whole record having sort of ebbs and flows and not being too tedious and monotonous of having, you know, 45 minutes of a record just being, a constant blast beat. There's variation to it, and like a song like Schadenfreude is, a little more like melancholy, but then has like a just straight rock. It's kind of like just like a rock and roll tune at the end of the day, or Bearing Teeth for Revolt. It's like Motorhead meets Venom, just rock and roll kind of. Um, I wouldn't just, I don't know, the energy of like a satanic party, beer drinking, party Satan music. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, like "Bearing Teeth for Revolt" is definitely has that kind of party kind of vibe, and I love how it was featured in the show Elementary. So that's cool to have like one of your songs featured on a TV show.
Yeah, that was pretty wild and unexpected. I was getting, because I don't watch a lot of TV, but I remember getting like a lot of messages about, like, from my family, like, oh, I was watching this CBS show and I heard Goatwhore. It's kind of cool to hear, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and this year does mark 10 years of Constricting Rage of the Merciless. Is there any chance you'll do like a celebration somehow, maybe throw in some deep cuts?
That would be cool, man. That would definitely be cool.
Yeah, yeah, it would be cool if you played this start to finish. Have you ever did like an album playthrough kind of like tour show?
No, we haven't. No, but there's been times where we like heavily draw more heavily from a certain record or something, but yeah, we never done the front to back kind of thing. But that would be cool to do for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever consider well if you were to do like one of your albums in full, which one would it be and why?
Fuck, man. Maybe it's because it's like just like the most current record, but and I'm not totally bored of it yet. But yeah, the newest one, Angels Hung from the Arches of Heaven. I think every one of those songs, just that whole album, front to back, would be awesome live.
Yeah, definitely. And then moving on to the next album, Vengeful Ascension. I like this album. What was it like going from this to this?
A little different. So that's the first one in that string of records that we did not work with Eric Rutan. We went to a place in Illinois and we did that one to recorded to tape as well, but we worked with Jarrett Pritchard, which is he's like our longtime live sound engineer, because he knows how we sound live, and we wanted to bring that know-how into the studio and try to capture the live energy of Goatwhore on record. So yeah, that was like the main, you know, only thing different in terms of just the recording process. But just like any of the other records, within those 2 years while you're touring, you collect, the amount of songs for a record over that time, and you feel strongly enough about them to want to put them on a record. And yeah, those are the songs we came up with, and we try to make them sound their best, and that's about it. But yeah, I'm happy with that one too. We played the shit out. We toured a lot on that record, and I think we probably played almost every song from that live, maybe except one. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it's a good record, man, and I think the drums came out killer, and yeah, good memories from recording with that. And that's the last one that James Harvey recorded with us, actually.
Yeah, yeah, rest in peace. Yeah, I heard he was a great guy. Guy, what are some like best memories with playing with James? Because especially being like the rhythm section.
Man, so many, dude. Like, I mean, even, before he passed away, it was every single day I could just sit back and laugh and just remember some little funny thing that he did or said, or some little weird situation we were in. So I'm pretty thankful that, to have all those memories of, and and be lucky enough to, got to travel. Well, being in a band, you get to travel around with your best friends and play metal. It's not a lot to complain about at the end of the day, because it's a pretty cool fucking thing.
Yeah, yeah, and funny enough, this was the album where I actually finally got to see Goatwhore for the first time. I remember seeing you all back in 2019. You played the venue called the Drunken Unicorn in Atlanta.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah.
was my first time ever seeing Go, where it was like you guys, of course, my boys in Cloak and my boys in Withered played with you guys. So tell me about like that. Tell me about like that show. That was still probably a amazing show.
It was, yeah. I remember it was hot as fuck. It's always hot as balls in that venue, but I remember having good shows there, man. I know Goatwhore, we played there probably 3 or 4 times over the years, and then, man, I want to say that Watain Angel Corpse Knock Mystium tour played there too. And I remember Watain was on stage, and um, Eric from Watain, the singer, would like ask me to like operate the fog machine. And he's like, oh, so I don't know. I was like, this is cool. Whatever. I'm just drinking beer, like hitting the fog button. But I think I was overdoing it. The whole stage was just fog and you couldn't see them. They couldn't see their guitar. So I probably got fired from being the fog tech after that.
Rip.
Oh,
Yeah, but then you started touring a little bit, and then the certain virus that shall not be named happened. And during that time, did you start working what would eventually become Angels Hung from the Arches of Heaven?
yeah, pretty much. So basically, like our schedule, like, and what happened with that virus thing, we were planning to be off the road anyway and just work on music and work on the record. So it didn't really like affect us a whole lot. You might have had to cancel a few things, but it really just gave us more time and less pressure to just try to bang out those songs and get them complete and to where we were happy with them. And then once like studios started, being operable again, we got in, recorded it, and yeah, it was just kind of like the COVID thing. I think was almost like a beneficial thing we used it to our advantage. I wouldn't say it was a beneficial thing, but we took a shitty situation and made it work for us. Just kind of like how the Hurricane Katrina thing happened. Shitty situation, but what are you gonna do? Are you gonna let it fucking hinder you, or are you gonna just work around it?
Yeah, yeah. And so, what was like the recording process? Did you want to continue in the same vein as Vengeful Ascension, or did you want to try something different that you all haven't done before?
Yeah, we did want to try something different. So we recorded that one in Louisiana. Actually, it's a studio about an hour north of New Orleans in Bogalusa, Louisiana. We recorded it up there, and it's like a nice little secluded in the woods studio, and it's been around since uh, early to mid '70s. Like Kansas did all their, they recorded "Carry On My Wayward Son" there. It's like Cinderella did a record there, like Marilyn Manson. But it's the proximity to New Orleans. It was close, and we were able to get out there and just be secluded because there's a house on the property. So you're basically just living and breathing that record the whole time you're there. So you go in the studio, being, tracking for 12 hours, and then just go walk across the woods to the house and sleep. And yeah, it was just zero distractions. And you really just like, you're immersed in what you're working on, which was a cool, it's what you kind of need when you're, trying to make a record.
Yeah, and then you of course worked with Jarrett Pritchard, Kurt Ballou, and how did they get involved and what did they bring to the table?
So Jarrett had done the record previous, Vengeful Ascension. So he engineered the record in the studio, which basically, just recording, getting all the sounds. And then we sent it to Kurt Ballou, and he mixed the album, did a phenomenal job. And then I think who mastered it? I can't remember the dude who
Look
mastered
at
it.
Ted Jensen.
Yeah, Ted Jensen. And just that combination of people, just it seems like every step along the way of that album, everything just kind of fell into place. And I wouldn't say that happens every record, but in terms of us being happy with it, with what we achieved on that, it's sometimes it just happens like that. And I wouldn't really, there's nothing I can bitch about that whole process of recording, the end result, anything. So I'm really happy with that one, man. And the vibe that record has, and just the tones in general and the songs, I think it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is also the first album with your current bassist, Robert T.A. Coleman. What did he bring to the recording of the album?
He killed it, dude. And man, I kind of know the feeling because he had been, touring with us live and just playing live with us, you know. And I was kind of the same way before I had recorded an actual record with the band. I'd been touring with them. So I was itching to, you know, put my stamp on um the Goatwhore music we were working on. So I'm sure it was the same with him, and he knocked it out of the park. And yeah, he's one of us, man. He's our brother, and he did a killer job.
Yeah, for sure. You want a good player, but you also want someone that you're not going to hate spending months in a van with.
Yeah, that always helps.
And yeah, of course, the title of the album, Angels Hung from the Arches of Heaven. And I know there's the cliche, like, how'd the title still get its name? But what, for you, like, what does the title mean to you?
Man, there's a lot of ways you can read into it. I know Ben has his own interpretation because he's obviously the lyricist and the kind of founds the concepts of what we base our stuff on. But yeah, I'm gonna leave that open to everybody else, man. It's been a while since I've done an interview for the record and even thought about it, to be honest.
Nice. Nice. So then back to the record. I feel like it's more melodic at times. There's definitely feels like there's a lot I like more kind of like experimentation than with the previous albums. Was that sort of like something that you actively were trying to, or is it just how it was played out?
Just kind of what happens naturally, man. We're the kind of band, and Sammy's the kind of, the way he writes riffs and everything. It's whatever you feel and whatever feels right. And if it feels good, when you play it together, if it feels right, we don't turn it down.
Yeah.
Don't think too much about it. Obviously, we overthink like any musician does. There's a fine line between overthinking something to its detriment or just letting it be. It's a delicate balance there.
Yeah, yeah, because I feel like it is harder now, especially now with having so many albums behind you. You try not to repeat yourself, but try to keep sort of like that goat whore feel to the songs, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I think that's just always there naturally. It's like, you know, it's like you don't wake up one day and start talking with a different accent or something, just out of the blue. It's the same with playing music, and especially with dudes that have done it together for so long. It's just, when it feels right, and when something feels off. So yeah, it's just trying to keep it as natural as possible. And that's kind of just the way it ends up happening.
Yeah, yeah, and of course there like this album came out like about like 6 7 years before after Vengeful Ascension, and I know though before that the Constricting came out in 2014. Did you really want to try to like take time to like hone in your crafts with making with sort of like the reason long sort of like long waits between albums?
Yeah, I think it was like almost 5 years between Vengeful and this one. But yeah, the COVID thing kind of screwed up the timeline, obviously. But at the end of the day, I think it worked out from for the best, because, you know, instead of rushing something, that's just what happened. And yeah, we always just try to make the best record we can at the time, but, yeah, but in those 5 years, obviously, as you grow as people and as a musician, and you take in all sorts of different influences within those 5 years, and also improve on whatever, you're never trying to take a step backwards. So that's just kind of like the natural evolution of just where you are. That's what an album is. It's just a snapshot of where you were in that little period of time when you're working on songs.
Yeah, and did you wanted to have this album out before it was released, at least if COVID didn't happen?
Yeah, I think originally, man, we were probably on track to have it out in 2020. Honestly, I think that's probably what would have happened. But you know, the extra time that, because when COVID hit, you couldn't get into a studio, people were so freaked out that studios were closed or there's weird protocols happening. So that just gave us extra time to, like, all right, keep on working on more songs. So being able to have afforded that time, we probably wrote 4 more songs that we cut 4 other previous songs. We just picked the best of the best 10 songs for the record, 10 or 11, whatever it is. So I don't think it hurt anything, but yeah, it's just kind of what happened.
Right. Right, and so be one thing I want to talk about is like your drumming on or with any albums, like your approach to drumming, because usually the drummer's job is to like keep the tempo or the beat, otherwise it would just end up like a freaking bloodbath. So as a drummer, do you need to like hear riffs in order to lay down your beats, or do you usually have like a drum pattern written and the rest of the band can write according to that?
Sometimes I'll keep like a little note or little like make little recordings that just cool little licks or ideas that I have. But I always start with a riff, and then those other ideas, I'll see if there's a place I can fit it in somewhere that makes sense and helps the song. But for me, it always starts with the riff, and it goes from there. So, and then putting drums to said riffs is, I mean, just finding what's suitable and not too over the top show offy or anything. I'm not trying to take away from the song, but it all depends. And truthfully, at the end of the day, it's like metal drumming vocabulary. You can break it down pretty easily. It's like you got your thrash beat, blast beat, different time signatures, whatever, accents here and there, but trying to make it unique within just the limited vocabulary, you know, that's kind of what I strive for. It's just trying to be unique within the confines of metal and rock or whatever that is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and in terms of like playing live, how different of it is it playing live as opposed to recording? Is there any similarities or differences?
Well, recording, if you mess up, you can do it as many times as you need to get it right. But live, it's like you're in the moment, but at the same time, the recording lasts forever. A show is you're in the moment. I much prefer, I like both aspects. I like being in the studio because you can really hone in on what you're doing and get it as tight as and nail it in perfectly. You know what I mean? And then live is it's you're totally in the moment, not thinking about anything else but where you are and the people in front of you and sharing that experience together. So they're both totally different things, but I like both aspects. But nothing beats playing for people, and sweating together and just the energy of a live show.
Yeah, and I know you play with like a variety of different bands. Like I mentioned earlier, first time I saw Goatwhore, you played with Cloak and Withered, who were sort of kind of like doomy kind of death metal stuff. Then I saw you play at Psycho Las Vegas with like Obituary and Mastodon, just some sick like death metal and sort of like progressive kind of stuff. And then you played Mass Destruction, which has like old school kind of death metal, black metal bands. And then I know you did the tour with Incantation, and then you did the last time I saw you guys with I Hate God, which is kind of more sludgy kind of doom stuff. Do you ever notice like a different kind of like crowd reaction depending on what tours you're on?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, and it's interesting, but it's also one of my favorite things about Goatwhore and what we do is you can apply it to you can tour so many different bands because at the end of the day, to us, I mean, yeah, it's extreme metal. It's you know, it got firm roots in death metal, black metal, thrash metal. But at the end of the day, like for me, I see it as kind of just like rock and roll in a way, or just old school metal. And it's awesome to be able to go out and tour with such different bands across the board
Yeah.
and people to just get it, which I think is cool. It keeps it interesting for me and for all of us.
Yeah, because you're not just like a like you play with like one certain style with like a genre with so many bands. I feel like Goat Horror definitely has that sound that can appeal to like everybody. It's not just for like one certain subgenre.
Yeah, yeah. But to the other point of your question, yeah, say for example, if we're on tour with like a more like shreddy, like technical death metal band, like the crowd will be a little more reserved and it'll still be might get wild or whatever, but it's a different dynamic than touring like, for example, like with I God, for example, because the people that normally go to those shows are a little wilder and they're a little more inebriated and going a little crazier and just yeah, different. It's funny, different energies within different subgenres and the crowds that go to those shows, but it
Yeah.
is interesting to notice.
Yeah, and of course, Angels Hung from the Arches of Heaven. It's a tongue twister of an album title. So it's been like almost 2 years now. Have you all started work on the next Go Horror album? Like, what's the status with that?
Yeah. So yeah, we're actually I think the plan is I'm gonna fly down to New Orleans in about a month, and we're gonna like officially start working on some new tunes. But man, we've always got a stockpile of you know unfinished songs that we didn't have time to finish before the last record was recorded, or riff ideas from whenever. Just no shortage of ideas, and Sammy's always cranking out riffs. He's a riff machine. So yeah, once we actually like get together and start working on it, yeah, it's a fairly it's like a snowball of never ending ideas. So it moves pretty quickly, but yeah, again, we don't try to rush ourselves in the process, but
Yeah, because you don't want to put out anything half-assed.
yeah, and we know if something sucks, and that's part of the thing. It's like we used to get together and bang, like write a whole song in a night or be all stoked about it, and then listen to it the next day. You're like, what the fuck were we thinking? So you got to kind of have that quality control on yourself.
Yeah.
But hopefully, the day that we you know stop self editing ourselves or not knowing when something sucks, it's over.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of in the end, Zach, to sort of wrap things up, what's next for Go Horror? Have you all have any tours lined up if you're allowed to announce?
Yeah, nothing announced for 2024 yet, but we got some things coming up and they should be announced shortly. And aside from that, I think we're really gonna start working on the writing aspect a lot more. So if that means kind of not touring as frequently as we did in the past 2 years, then that's just what needs to happen. But yeah, there's some stuff coming up and I can't wait for it to be announced. And yeah, can't wait to be back in Atlanta, man. Atlanta's a good town for metal and for Goatwhore for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Love it, even though it gets hot sometimes. Hence the nickname we give it, Hot Lana.
Oh yeah, I'm used to that though, man. Phoenix and New Orleans, hot as balls places. I thrive in the heat.
Yeah, it's same. So, like I went to like Vegas, like 20 and 21 and 22. It's like a scorching outside. Like let me tell you.
It's brutal, man. Like, yeah, you're out there for psycho, man. You walk out of the casino and you fucking melt.
And yeah, even when it's like nighttime outside, because I remember seeing like corpse at the in the beach, and it was still hot as fuck.
Oh yeah, you got to stay hydrated in the desert, man.
I tried to, and I remember even doing like a bunch of walking, especially after like the second day, I had like blisters on my feet.
Oh yeah, Vegas, you're either walking through a goddamn casino or yeah, it's a lot of walking.
Yeah, I had to like walk all the way because I was staying at the Excalibur in 21. But I loved how they moved it to a Resorts World. I thought it was like navigating was more smoother there, but I
Okay.
do admit that Mandalay had the better venues.
Yeah, I didn't go to the one when they had it at Resorts World, but I heard it was cool.
Yeah, I
I
got
like
to see Merciful Fate and Emperor. I got to knock those off my bucket list.
that's sick, man. Hell yeah.
I even remember meeting Abbott because I know he was playing in a Motorhead tribute band.
That's right. Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, I'm hoping Merciful Fate comes back to the US this year. I know that hopefully they put out that record too. I'll have to-
Yeah, fingers crossed. I even remember need to go back to my hotel room to get something. Very much ran into Brian Slagle of Metal Blade there and Kerry King from Slayer, and I was like, holy shit.
Hell yeah, two of the two of the greatest balding or bald metal dudes and
Yeah.
in
Uh,
exi-
even remember seeing Ross from Immolation walk by.
that's awesome. Hell yeah. Ross is a
Yeah.
good dude.
Hell yeah. Like I always say, like death metal is like evil music for nice people.
Yeah, you're right, man. Yeah, it's funny. So even my mom like realized that, and she's like, "Man, the aesthetic and whatever the subject matter, it's you would think that people are disrespectful or rude or going to be dickheads, but yeah, some of the kindest people out there."
Yeah, like I can vouch for example, Grinder. Like I especially love how he just gets like all these those plush animals and donates them to charity. I have even more respect for him for doing that.
Yeah, he's a sweetheart, man.
Definitely. So thank you, Zach, for taking this time to do this interview. It's great to be able to have you on. So there's just any final words you want to say to the viewers that are watching this to close us out?
Hey, thanks for support over the years. Keep your eyes peeled for more touring, more new record eventually. And yeah, thanks for fucking rocking with us, man. And thanks for having me on, man. Thanks for talking to me. Good questions, by the way.
Thank you. Anytime, man. So everybody, Zach Simmons from Goatwhore. See you next time.